in the gym and in the car. With our advice, you could go far. We fuck things up and we make mistakes. We talk about our sexy dates. We host events and we go to clubs. But most of all, we're still in love. It's getting hard for this to rhyme just as well, 'cause it's bed hopping time. It's bed hopping time. It's bed hopping time.
Hello and welcome to the Bed Hoppers podcast. My name's Mr. H.
And I'm Mrs. H.
Joining us today is an amazing guest who came to our recent reassembled event in Birmingham. We are pleased to introduce Mrs. H. Do you want to introduce her?
I want to introduce you to the lovely Jess.
Hi.
Welcome.
I'm Jess.
Oh, hello, Jess.
You are the lovely Jess.
You are the lovely Jess. We haven't got any other Jesses stored out here, which is good news because we're interviewing you today. We thought we'd catch up with you since we met you at our reassembled event quite recently. And since you were sort of, from what we understand, you had a nice time, we thought we'd capture that good time and lure you into an interview so that we've got some content. I hope that's okay.
Fantastic. Happy to content farm for you guys.
Lovely. Perfect. So our first question is, how would you describe yourself?
I would describe myself as having the sense of fun as like a 9-year-old. Like if I see a good puddle, I'm jumping in it. I'm a big thinker. I've always been a big thinker. I'm kind of positively chaotic. And then my friends always say I'm very loyal. And my dad once said I was the most reliable person he knew, which is a blessing and a curse. But yeah, I'd say I'm a 9-year-old who's been to a lot of therapy.
Mr. H is excessively chaotic. I always say he's the most introverted extrovert I've ever known. And if he can find chaos, he will definitely find it.
Well, firstly, I, for one, am glad that the topic has swum back round to me so soon in the day.
It's always about you, Ben. Always about you.
I'm chaotic, but I like structure. I like chaos within a coordinated response.
I like a coordinated, like my home is very organised. Everything has a place. But in terms of where that place is, it's based on how I operate, which means that the locations seem chaotic if you were to go through it systemically. But everything's where I need it to be, but I live in a chaotic way.
Perfect. I can approve and endorse this approach
This is like
to
my
life.
approach to lateness when I arrive exactly when I intend to.
All right, Gandalf, calm
Yeah,
down.
but I know when I'm arriving. It's just chaotic for everyone else.
But when everyone else has set a time for you to turn up. And anyways, let's find out some more about Jess, since she is definitely the star of the show today. How did you get started in this ethically non-monogamous world?
So I first started kind of dabbling in polyamory when I just left university, so about 10 years ago. And I kind of knew I was poly. I'd done some, kind of polyamorous like style dating, but then was single for, about kind of 7-8 years really. And then it was after lockdown and I was on Tinder, desperately trying to just get laid. And it was turning into a nightmare. So I was chatting to my friend and he said, "Oh, you should try this website." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And I was quite quickly disappointed by actually trying to get men to commit to meeting up. But it was through that website that I found swinging and realised kind of that there was this whole community of people who had a more, relaxed and open and fun-based approach to physical intimacy. And I was like, "Oh, okay." So yeah, met up with a couple of people. I had one person who I met in hotels for a little while. So he was kind of, my first, fuck buddy, I suppose. And then started going to socials about 6 months after I got onto that website. And I think that's when I really joined the scene and the lifestyle. So that's kind of how I got into it. So it was an attempt to have no strings casual sex, and I accidentally tripped upon this amazing community of people who want to live like I do. So, really, really fell upwards with that one.
That sounds a perfect way to start, I think. So how would you describe your dynamic? Because are you a single lady? Are you in a poly relationship? What are you looking for?
So I am solo poly. So I have at the moment one partner. Early this year it was 3. Things happened. So I'm in one relationship now. It's a long distance relationship. He lives down south. He has a partner who lives close to him, but we have always, kind of swung independently, even in, kind of my longer term relationships. I still swung independently. And I like doing it as something which is mine and is entirely shaped by kind of my desires in the moment and my boundaries. I've got quite a complex relationship with physical intimacy due to a number of things, as I'm sure very many people can relate to. So I've always done it solo. It is rare that I go swinging with a partner because I like to be able to follow my own sex drive. So yeah, solo poly is kind of what I go with.
Awesome. And how do you navigate poly with the swinging part of things? Is that a tricky balance?
No, not if the person that you're with has done the work. I think everyone, kind of grows up in this society that, monogamy is the baseline. And that is correct for a great number of people. But then there are those of us who don't. And I think there's a lot of work to do around unlearning the idea that the value in your relationship comes from the exclusivity, and unlearning that, because for some it is, and that is what you lean back on, and that is totally okay, and that's how you draw your boundaries. But for me, that's not how it works. And you're still kind of learning new language. Like just the other day I learned about transparent based communication versus autonomous based communication, and it's just about learning like how to talk about that, but also like doing the work. You can't talk your way out of, a toxic mindset. You have to really do that work and tackle your insecurities and reframe how you see jealousy. Jealousy is not a bad thing. Jealousy is, your soul telling you that you're missing something. So for me, and also I don't swing one-on-one with monogamous people who are single, my own kind of preference. And I don't date monogamous people, and I don't date poly people who have a negative view on swinging. So for me, it's really kind of just drawing the boundaries around who I am willing to get emotionally involved with.
Do you find, that's really interesting. Jess, do you find that you've encountered many people in the poly lifestyle who do have that negative view of swinging?
You see it less now, and communities are starting to stand up. So I'm in a forum where there were comments, really bashing the swinging community, and the admins shut them down and ended up booting these people from the forum, which is really great. But there are some people who, because all the terms are so interchangeable, and there's this kind of idea of, swingers give poly people a bad name. And it's like, hang on, the vast majority of swingers are not poly. They're ethically non-monogamous or consensually non-monogamous, as some people now use it. And I think it is that kind of, society's being mean to us, let's find someone else to blame it on. Okay, look, yeah, we're poly, but those people have sex with other people. So it's very kind of like, don't look here, look there. So you see it less and less now, but it was very prevalent, even just 5 years ago. So
I think there's still a bit of that out there. It's been interesting, actually. I've seen a few swingers identifying themselves as poly, and I'm sure that causes all sorts of wonderful feedback from the poly community. But in the strictest sense, they are being swingers. They're just using poly as a catch-all term.
As a woke term, because it sounds a bit more sexy.
Well, it's not so much that it sounds sexy. I think poly is more accepted sort of out there in the world than swinging.
Yeah, it doesn't have such an unpalatable view as, dirty swingers, just having sex people.
No, I agree with that. I think it's the same reason why, when I first came out as bi, I was in my mid-teens, and there was the whole rhetoric that the term bisexual was transphobic and da-da-da. So I started calling myself pansexual, because it was more palatable, when actually, then you kind of dig into it, and ultimately you come down to language makes sense. I think with poly is short for polyamorous.
Yeah.
So it's about how you experience love, not how you experience physical attraction. I think kind of there is an important distinction there, because, I got involved with someone who said that, he was poly and everything, but quite quickly he became very controlling, very upset when I would see other people, wanted to know the intimate details of my other relationships. So he was, I don't even necessarily think he was a swinger, but, he was a swinger, but he was calling himself poly when he didn't really understand what it meant. And I think that people have to be conscious that if you're going to use the language of polyamory when you're not, you are potentially inviting people to be harmed, because they're going to assume that you are open to other romantic connections when you may not be. So I get that, it sounds more comfortable, but it worries me a bit, because it does invite people, especially when couples use it and singles approach. That's really difficult.
think one of my big bugbears, in fact, in the whole ethically or consensually non-monogamous community is actually about people using language and the way that they chop and change the use of the different terminologies. And it drives me mad. As a writer, part of my job is writing, I like to know what I'm talking about. So if a toaster is a toaster, let's call it a toaster. But I also get that some people don't like some of the terms and labels through whatever reasons. Sometimes they don't like, I know that, for example, like cuckold has quite a lot of negative connotations for people. Also, I know the term swinger tends to have a lot of negative connotations. So people like going, well, actually, I'm not this, I am that. But that means that we end up with all these different descriptors of different things. And I get that actually the best way to overcome that is to have conversations with people and talk them through when you're meeting new folks or when you're trying to introduce someone into your relationship or whatever. But I like to know what we mean by when we use a term. So it's kind of, it does drive me a bit mad. I wish people would just use the right things. But I'm very conscious that we don't live in a perfect world. And if you look out the window, there's far worse things to be worried about than there are about.
But we don't always know either, do you? As you say, it's of not being maybe educated about where those terms come from and what they necessarily define.
I think there are certain terms and things that come around and become very popular, and people want to sort of be like, wow, this is what we do, or maybe it's their flavour of the week. And I remember going back a few years ago, everyone was calling themselves a stag and all this sort of stuff, when actually they didn't really have any idea about what the connotations of that were. They just thought it sounded cool. I mean, one of the things I remember, funnily enough, talking to Secret Stag actually about this, he was like, well, what animal would you be? And I said, well, I'll be a crocodile, because I just wait for people to come up to me. And then and then lo and behold, the next week he'd bought me a transformer that in fact was a crocodile. But I think there is that kind of, we all want something cool and we all want to be represented in the best possible light. But we all don't like some of these terms, but that's just the reality of the world, I think. So we talk about your dynamic there. What have you learned about yourself in that time? Because it feels like you've been through quite a journey.
Yeah, I mean, I've been, knocking around the scene for 4.5 years now. What have I learnt about myself? I think it's brought into focus some stuff I need to work on with myself. You'll pick up I'm quite big on doing self-work, but it's brought into focus some of kind of the body image issues that I have.
Okay.
And kind of some of the insecurities that are there. Ultimately, I grew up in a world where, women are socialised to be paranoid about what they look like because it, can make people a lot of money. So confronting that and coming to terms with that, doing some work around it and, tackling it kind of head on rather than, wandering around throwing up my peace signs going, body positivity. It's all really well and good to say that until you're wandering around somewhere with a bunch of strangers in your pants, So I think it's taught me that I've got more to do. It's taught me that I have icks I didn't realise I had, like little things that annoy me, like when I get messages that go, hey you, and I'm like, do I know you? Does my head in? So it's made me realise much more that. I think it's also made me realise I'm a lot more emotionally mature than a lot of people, I'd say my age, but across the board, it's taught me about that. And it's really solidified that I am definitely poly, because before I got on the scene, I'd been single for, 7 or 8 years. I met someone through the scene, started dating them. That didn't last very long, but, kind of about 5 months later, I met someone else, and then I met someone else about a year and a bit later. And so it's really solidified that I am definitely poly. I don't have trauma, or I'm not avoidant. I don't have commitment issues. This is just who I am, which has been really really empowering, actually. And it's also taught me that I like lots of things I didn't realise I liked. There are ways to, kind of enjoy being in your body that you don't necessarily realise. Meeting people who, have a real kink for like naked Scrabble, which is just so cool. Turns out I love naked Scrabble. It's so much fun. It's a great form of exhibitionism. So, I think it really forces you to confront who you are as a person. And that can be really bad or it can be really good, depending on how you choose to respond to it.
So I'm curious, you've mentioned a few times about working on yourself. How do you typically, and let's take it away from the naughty context of that, of course, work on yourself? What's your sort of routine to sort of working some of these things through?
So I had to have a really difficult conversation with myself about fundamentally changing my life and making myself do things that in the moment I might not want to do. So I have ADHD amongst kind of some other disabilities that go on. And, even when I have days that I don't want to, like I force myself to go out, go to, sport training, having to And also kind of living in a tiny home, I don't have the capability to let laundry pile up for too long, because when the pile gets too big, you literally can't move around. So there's something about, like, you know, kind of forcing my brain to do the thing. There's that. I read a lot. I engage in a lot of, you know, kind of forums. Like, I just follow a lot of therapists on Instagram who are really funny. Like, Meme Monday has become one of my favorite things on my Instagram feed. It's just therapists posting like woke memes. It's great. You know, kind of putting yourself in those environments. And then when I need it, I talk to a therapist. You know, I worked with a dietitian last year around some of my, you know, kind of eating habits and challenges around that. And, you know, I think a lot of it is just like having the bravery to put yourself in that vulnerable position and, you know, sacrifice some time and some money. So that's kind of what looking after myself looks like there. And just, yeah, getting into that routine and those little rituals and not allowing myself to fall from those. Like, I am the most important relationship in my life, which I think also is kind of where the solo poly comes in, that no relationship in my life will ever take precedence over the one I have with myself. Maybe my dog, but, you know.
That's fair. That's very fair. Wife, I think you had a question.
I do. So we've talked a little bit about what you've learned about yourself. What have you learned about other people?
So many things. What I love about, like, being in the lifestyle is that people are so liberated to be exactly who they are. And I've met some of the nicest, some of the funniest people on the scene. But it's also interesting being like a single person watching couples. You learn a lot about couples dynamics by being outside of it. You know, I say to other, you know, kind of especially like single femmes on the scene that there are two types of couples that come to swinging. There are the couples who have burnt out and they're looking for someone to come and bring the spark back in. And then there's the couples who burn for each other so much that if no one else comes in to soak some of it up, they're going to literally kill each other. Like, they're going to erode each other. And, you know, it's those types of couples who you really want to play with when you get, you know, brought up and swept up in it and you get included in the romance and the loveliness of it. So, yeah, I think you learn a lot about other people's relationships by being outside of them and being approached by those couples. It's also fascinating how many couples say they're interested in single women, but you go to a club night which is couples and single women and you sat there like a lemon on your own all night. So I think what else have I learned about people? That people are kind of disarmed by vulnerability.
Yeah.
If you approach it in an authentic, vulnerable way, people will respond the same because they're so not used to it. And that's how you build really strong relationships and connections. People are secret freaks as well. My God. Yeah. I've learned lots of other little things, but I won't share those publicly. It doesn't feel fair.
That's absolutely fair. And I'm with you. I think if you approach people with a bit of vulnerability and humility, you get a much better and much more honest response back. And watching other couples or people interact reveals a lot about them. I also like, actually, if we're in a social or a venue, how those couples or other people interact with the people serving behind the bar and having a meal, how they interact with the waiters, tells you a lot about people in general. And, you know, just seeing some people react in sort of what I would call awful ways has just like put me off them for life. And it's so funny how you see that stuff going on. And it only takes a little step back to see that, and you kind of go, oh, these are not my people. But it's a good measure how you go about this sort of stuff. So
definitely. And I think it's why at the social, was it a couple of days ago, a week ago? I don't know.
It feels
on the weekend.
Not enough sleep ago. No. That's what I'm saying.
I think, like, you know, that's where, you know, the karaoke and the dance floor and stuff really helps, because anyone, like, to get up and do something so brave and quite exposing, you know, dancing like an idiot, you know, singing potentially not very well, it is being vulnerable, and that invites connection. I'm a really big fan of Brené Brown, and she talks all the time about how vulnerability is an invitation to connect. And I think that's why those kind of things, and why I really encourage people to just go out and do things when they're on the scene. Because if you go out there and dance like an idiot on a dance floor, someone's going to come and join you, and that is the kind of person you want to be hanging out with. And so really enjoyed the karaoke.
Well, it was a bit of so we didn't advertise the karaoke, and we did it as a bonus for people, because I think if we'd have advertised it, it would have sent some folks running.
Oh, I think people might have been put off.
Yeah,
it was going to be a different kind of vibe party.
When we opened it, though, I did a tour of our venue and was telling people about it. And some people were looking more and more like, I was like, the karaoke's open. If you want to give it a go, it's, go in there. And if you just want to sing along from the back, that's fine. If you want to dance, whatever you like. And some people looked horrified, properly, took a step back and were like, no. And sure enough, 2 hours later, in they were, singing away on the karaoke. Some of them even picked up a mic. And I was like, that's great. That's a really good means of them putting their best foot forwards and giving it a go. And I loved that about the whole thing. And I loved, by the time we got to the end of the night or the end of the karaoke, it was a bit like we'd been through a war zone together. We'd
That's what it felt like.
Certainly the way that Mr. Brightside was covered come the end. I think that was the thing. But it did feel like we'd all gone through an experience together and come out the other side stronger. And I really loved that about it. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So that's some of the things about other people. What have been the main challenges for you? What have you had to overcome?
Oh boy. So I kind of touched on the kind of, body image, body confidence stuff. I think the hardest moment I had when I was swinging was I was at a club, I was happily chatting to this guy, and it turned out he was there with someone, but he was like, well, we're two singles. We just, we've just come together tonight. So, it's fine. And I was like, okay. So we spent a lot of time and it was just really good, really great connection, really great chat. He was just having a really good time. We were very compatible in a lot of ways. And then we ended up playing together and it was really fantastic. And then we left the room and he spotted the woman that he'd come in with and she was clearly unhappy that he'd vanished for so long. So I kind of said, I'm just going to go grab a drink and then I'll come find you and we'll go out for a bit of fresh air. So I went down to the bar, came up and I walked up to them going at it just in the corridor. So I couldn't get to the fresh air and I was there and I was like, oh, and feeling so on the outside and so I was an NPC in, their swinging experience. And that's happened a couple of times where, I'll play with couples and then you leave the room and then they go off to have their couple time and you just have to go off and be on your own. And I think some people can, kind of make their peace with that and find a way forward from that. I can't, because the kind of afterwards, the reflecting, the debriefing, laughing about it, kind of coming down from the experience is really important for me to have a positive swinging experience. So where that hasn't happened, that's kind of been the real hardest stuff. And I've had to really get very comfortable asserting my boundaries and saying to a couple when we first talk, and I'm like, look, kind of the care of this is really important to me. And I think there is a bit of a hierarchy in some areas of the scene where, if you're single, you're not a real swinger. You can't be a swinger unless you've got a partner, which is something that I've heard quite a lot. So there's almost the idea that, no, we're the couple. We have the priority here. We're more important. And, you should know what your role is as a single in the scene. And I'm like, I don't think singles are just there as a living, breathing fleshlight for you, actually. If you want that experience, there are people who do this for a living. Creating fantasies is their job.
Yeah.
Go do that. Swinging should be about community. So I think that's kind of the hardest thing for me is getting over that mentality that I am less valid because I'm solo and actually learning to voice my needs and desires and really advocate for myself and set those boundaries. I used to be awful at setting boundaries. I'm much better now. So swinging has helped me in my real life as well because I'm just better at setting boundaries all around. That's been a hard step.
I think the hierarchy thing, you're not a proper swinger unless, is one of the worst aspects of the community.
I've encountered it before.
We get told that we're not swingers on a regular basis, and because we don't do it the way that other people do it, or honestly, and Christ, don't go on Reddit because there's enough stuff written about to fill a book. And I think it's so weird how people gatekeep it in that kind of way, because it's like there's so many different approaches to this and so many different angles you can take, quite literally. But also, you know, no one owns this. No one owns this whole thing. But this goes back to the language of, that we were talking about earlier, the definition. That definition isn't linked to just couples or thruples or quads or partnered people. It's single people as well. And I think the definitions are kind of really important around that aspect, to just kind of point out that actually we're all part of that community. but it does drive me mad. The whole gatekeeping thing is one of my pet peeves, along with language, as I'm kind of going down a random hole with now, as you might get. So, Mrs. H, you had a question. Now, you've got 2 questions, in fact.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay.
That's what she was worried about, that she has her favourite question coming up, but not next.
It's not about sandwiches, promise.
No, okay.
So what advice do you think you would give to new people coming onto the scene?
And I need to say, and caveat at this point, that communication is taken as they have mastered the art of communication at this point. So we cannot offer that as advice.
Wonderful. Work out what you like, work out what you want, and don't compromise on that. Learn how to talk in a way that makes sense for you. So when I go into a scenario and, like, we're making out and it's very clear that it's going to go somewhere, I will break for a second and kind of say, okay, what are your big yeses, what are your big nos? Because that fits in with the cadence of how I talk and how I communicate with people. There is no fixed way of doing things. Find a way of talking about this stuff that works for you and makes sense in your dialect and in your, tone of voice. And if it's not fun, don't do it. There's none of this, you're allowed to go to a club event and halfway through think, I'm not having a good time. I'm going to, go home and get some food. Another one of my big top tips, if you're going to be out late, most clubs have a shower. Pack your skincare and your jammies, do your brushing teeth, do your whole night's in routine at the club, and then get into the car, go home, and you can just roll straight into bed. It's great.
Oh my God, advice.
That's fabulous.
I have genuinely come back from a club before in pyjamas.
Yeah, it was the pyjama party that we went to. I'm joking.
It was the burlesque one.
Oh, I see. So yeah, you did.
Yeah, I do it all the time.
On the M4 into my pyjamas. Best thing ever.
Just remembering flat shoes is a good tip, to be fair.
Yeah, pack clean pants for coming home. Multiple sets of underwear. I'm saying this to vagina owners, but also penis owners. Multiple sets of underwear because they will get messy. Don't wear false eyelashes to a club. You will get hot. The glue will melt. It will go in your eyes. It's vile. And yeah, just if it's not fun, don't do it. And you are allowed to bail out whenever you want.
That's amazing advice there.
Yeah, that's great advice. I endorse those messages. Not that
Think twice about wearing fake eyelashes to a club, babe.
I will do. I'll try.
You were thinking of trying it.
It's bad enough you trying to get me to wear as much makeup as that you can get on me.
I mean, I was once in a situation where I was fairly aggressively pegging someone in a room in a club, and I had to gesture at someone else to come over and wipe my face because I was sweating and the eye glue was going in my eyes, and it was horrendous. But he was having such a great time, I wasn't going to stop. I'm like, right, let's just crack on. Someone give me a towel. So yeah, don't do it.
I like the measure of pegging being on an aggressive scale.
His dog expressly asked me to go for it.
Go fairly aggressive. Like Nando's chicken spices or whatever. I'll just have lemon and herb pegging, please.
I actually might start implementing that in my kick practice. Actually, on this scale, where do you want the
Nando's
impact?
spice level would you like today, sir?
I'll have the Fanta pegging, please. No one ever wants that.
Nobody
Fanta
wants
spice.
the Fanta pegging.
No one wants Fanta spice. It's an abomination. Miss H, ask the question you've been dying to ask.
All right. Okay. I like this question. It's very me. So if you could change one thing and you could pop it into room 101 for it never to be seen again, what would it be?
Oh,
I mean,
I'm guessing I have to go about swinging here.
Yeah. It's not like you can get rid of like a parent you don't like or a child that you've, kept around for too long.
I was just going to get rid of bus times that lie.
Oh,
no,
trust
swinging.
me, we did a whole episode about this one, so I had a great time.
Yeah. One thing that I would bin off in swinging, I'm trying to think how to articulate it. I would bin off anyone who's responded to a report of bad behaviour by going, oh, that's just X. They've been around for ages, they're fine. Like, don't worry about it. They're just joking. They're just having a laugh. Anyone who responds like that, get in the room, you're gone. It's not okay.
I think that's fair. It's been actually that's been an interesting conversation that we've had a number of times, and I think it's really difficult because you are just enabling that behaviour time and time again, and unless you do something and step up to it, then that's going to continue. And I think we've been quite fortunate with clubs and venues and stuff where security have been on the ball. So if we've had an issue, then we've been able to deal with it. I think for us, where we struggle a little bit is sometimes people don't tell us about behaviour. And it's rare for us to get massively problematic behaviour, but if they don't tell us about it, then we can't do anything about it. So I'm continuously, and the same goes for our chat groups, our Discord, our events, asking people if they're okay and to let us know if there's any issues, because the last thing I want to do is find out a week later that someone was being a bit of a dick or continue to be a minor inconvenience when I could have stepped in and made someone's night better as a result of that.
Yeah, I mean, I work in kind of safety within the scene. And it is kind of the biggest thing is people not saying anything. And I think that kind of, they've got prestige, it's fine. It's often attributed to the kink scene, but it shows up in the swinging scene as well. Kind of more so the people who are very, prominent in the scene, it's almost that, you're not allowed to kind of say anything bad about them. And it is kind of, propped up by those people who say, oh, that's just how they are. And I'm very deliberately using gender neutral pronouns because it's very much a non-gendered issue in the swinging scene.
Yeah.
I think, in the wider world, it's, kind of gendered. I think in the swing scene, I've seen that it's non-gendered. People of all genders do it. Couples do it. Men do it. Women do it. And I think kind of the adage of if you step on my foot, I get to decide how much it hurt. It doesn't matter if you didn't mean to hurt me. I get to decide how much you hurt me. I'm the one that got...
Yeah. No.
Yeah. I mean, I'd also been off flavored, the teeny tiny packets of flavored lube that come in such high quantities you can never hope to get through them. Does my head in. Just give me a big thing of gel-based lube and let's just crack on. I'd bin those off.
Plus, some of them
just freebies.
are horrid, aren't they? They're
vile.
Really not nice.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm always of the belief that we need more lube, generally as a community, but I'm also of the belief that there's a lot of shit lube out there.
There really is.
And I've had some experiences where we've had just any lube out and someone's literally moved my hand away no, I won't need that. And I'm like, well, I fucking will. Calm down. And it's such an interesting response to lube. But I'm with you on the various little tiny flavoured-y things and all those sorts.
If your hands are already slippy and you need more lube, you cannot open those little packets. They're never any good. And they always get included as freebies whenever you buy anything that is associated to the lifestyle.
What's wrong with the pump love, eh?
I don't need this. Trust me, I have enough. I don't. Stop giving it to me. Even sexual health clinics don't want the stuff. Stop it. Stop producing this. We're killing the planet. Stop it.
That's fair. Although I have found some disposable, individually wrapped wipes, like hygiene wipes, that are really good recently.
Those are useful.
Very good. I like to sort of travel around with some baby wipes, but that's cumbersome. There's a big packet there, whereas if I've got a few of those, I can slip into the old portable play bag. It's absolutely lovely. And it says caring afterwards when you're say, can I interest you in a disposable wipe?
You're going to start offering an after 8 mint as well.
Yeah, I mean, if I had after 8s, that would be good. I mean...
That would be very good. It is fascinating what people pack in their swing bag. And you can always tell if someone's got a bit of kind of kink to their swing life because they'll have some sweets in their bag because you need a bit of sugar after a scene. So that's always interesting. But you do have some people go, don't judge me on what's in the bag. And it's I promise you, I have seen more. I have seen worse. You're fine.
I think my favourite sort of swing bag or kink bag that we saw was we went to Desire going back many years ago, but we went with Life on the Swing Set and they were on a kink night. And one of the people literally brought a full suitcase worth of every bit of equipment that you could imagine
that had
almost.
The ultraviolet one thing in it.
Yeah, they had
load of spark plugs or
they
something.
had that, but also lots of impact stuff, lots of binding stuff, and it was like a sort of Mr. Pirelli's Miracle Elixir or whatever it is type sort of opening of a drawer and things coming out of it. It was
pull out trays and all sorts.
Yeah, I half expected Mary Poppins' umbrella to be pulled out of that bloody thing. But
I did have a friend who had the toolboxes that you can stack up and they're on wheels, like the DeWalt ones.
Yep.
And she had about 5 of those that she would just bring to the club. Yeah, iconic, actually. And I've had it once, so I really enjoy wax play. And there was also, I took all my wax candles into a venue, and the guy checked my bag and was like, "Are you going to have a frigging seance? What's going on?" I was like, no, it's wax play. It's nice, I promise. It's a bloody messy kink, though. My God, get a drop sheet if you want to do any wax play.
You need to cover that place like you're in Dexter, otherwise you've not got a chance of getting out alive.
Pretty much, yeah.
So we've covered a bit about what you change and what you throw away. Now let's move on to something that's awesome. What would be your ideal date? And who would it be with? What sort of... Would it be couples? Would it be singles? Would it be a whole bunch of people? Where'd you go? What'd you do?
That's a difficult question for someone who's poly and dates singles and a couple of various permeations. I think my perfect date, regardless of who it's with, has to be something fun. Like, got to get and do something fun. Like, one of my kind of favourite things to do is like board games, video games, mini golf, that kind of stuff. Just a laugh. You've got to be able to like have fun and relax. Lots of joking, lots of laughing. Silly dancing is always good. I quite enjoy on the scene and in my dating life when things get a little bit kind of messy and sloppy and funny. Not, from being really drunk, but that kind of like, we're making out so much that like limbs just everywhere, like hair's a mess, but we don't care because we're having a great time. I think kind of that relaxed nature. So yeah, my idea is like grab something to eat, do something fun, talk and talk and talk. Wander around the street, staying out. I love it when, you kind of stop realizing what time it is because you're just having such a great time. And yeah, I like dancing. I have been known to drag people out to a karaoke bar before the night is out. I also once impulsively booked an escape room for me and some friends in the middle of a night out. So impulsive, fun, chatty are kind of, my perfect date. So exactly what that looks like depends on the person. But I love it when you're with someone and they get excited about something. So, if I'm on a date with someone and they start talking excitedly about how they, really like this thing, like, I love how the water looks at night and we're against the canal, let's go. I'll drag them off the canal and I'm like, let's sit and grab a couple of tinnies and watch the water. That's kind of what my perfect dates are like.
There is something quite magical about being on that excitement roller coaster of doing something adventurous or fun and just losing yourself in that and those moments and those little building little stories that connect you. And so by the time you get to the end of the night or the point at which you're like, oh wow, where's the time gone, you kind of feel like you've been on some great literary thing, like this journey together. And I love that moment, particularly that moment when it starts, when it feels like almost like the first couple of drinks on a Friday, and that sort of, yes, we're doing something, this is fun, and we're not that it requires drinks necessarily, but that moment of it going somewhere, I really love that. That's
and then also,
thing.
If the relationship goes to poop, if you never go on another date, if you found out something really dodgy on their social media, at least you had a cracking night. I often do it, without drinking. I can get perfectly feral on a couple of Diet Cokes. I don't drink very much caffeine. But yeah, just that fun. I love having fun and making memories with people, come what may.
That's amazing. I love that. So do you have a question for us since we're here?
I am quite interested in what's like the wildest thing you've heard while doing this podcast. Like something said, you're just like, oh my God.
I mean, some of the wildest things we've heard have been things that we've done and well, not that we've done, things that have happened to us. And I think,
or we've been involved in it.
Yeah. So if I look back over the years, there's a few bits that come out, particularly those really early episodes. I think because when we started doing this, because it must have been 9, maybe 10 years ago now, something like that.
2016.
Yeah, there we go. So it's getting towards 10 years. When we started, there was only really Fab that was about as a place to go. There weren't any socials or events near us. No. And in fact, the nearest social was like an hour away, 45 minutes away. So we just kind of threw ourselves in. And I think as a result of that attitude, because we felt like there was, like we'd listened to I'd done some research and I'd listened to some American podcasts and I'd seen like Playboy Swing on television. And I felt that there was like a promised land at the end of this. But I didn't know how to get to that, like to find my people. And so we threw ourselves into all sorts of shit. So, and like, I nearly got punched. We nearly had to call social services on one thing. I famously nearly threw up on a lady's...
Oh, Chandamuff, that's my favourite.
Yes, it's the episode. It is the episode that Mrs. H always recommends to people who've never heard of the podcast.
It's so funny.
It's primarily because it makes me look like an absolute dickhead.
No, it's not just because it makes it look like a dick. It brings
I've got a story that might fit you out. Someone was more idiotic than you were.
Go on. I need to hear it.
Let's come to that in a second.
Oh, I want to hear the story.
The other bits I was going to say is that then we've had couples split up Well, one of them's been on top of me. That was fun in our house, and we've had couples that have had fights. We've had to kick people out of events for fighting. There's been, and we've found poops in playrooms. So there's a whole range of wild and weird and wacky things. But yeah, so
think about it.
and I think particularly those early days, though, we kind of threw ourselves in and didn't really think about the consequences of it. We were a bit laissez-faire because we didn't know any better, and we didn't really trust our spidey senses doing this. So looking back, I think, fuck me, how the hell are we still together, B, alive, and C, like not scarred in any way other than the mental times where we're both found rocking together in the shower with our clothes on. So it is quite mad. So in terms of wild things, we've kind of seen a lot. And in terms of other things or things that people have talked about, all of that and more, it's, we've heard some of the best things you can't talk about on the podcast because they're friends that have told you this wonderfully, like, hilarious / awful story, or we've experienced. Certainly we've got a couple stories that we can't talk about because of the very nature of their friends or people listen to the show and it would be about them and it wouldn't be right. So, it is quite bonkers. But yeah, rest assured, we've been through the ringer on a lot of stuff, and having done the stuff like the TV shows as well, that was quite a weird and wild time behind the scenes of that, and just sort of going, oh yeah, we're doing our bit, we want to really represent the community and we want to be like, yeah, and then you see it on TV and you're like, fucking hell, they've done that to us as well. So it has been mad. But sorry, I've delayed a funny story
I want to hear
so long. I need to know it now. We let's hit us up with a funny story.
I know that Mrs. H has been excited for this. So I was hooking up with a guy. We'd hooked him a few times before. So, we're kind of making out and it's going away. So chucks condom on. And then I hop on top and, doing my merry old thing. And then I kind of decide that I'm like, I'm actually not quite ready for penetration. I want to go back to a bit of foreplay. So I hop off, take the condom off, because I know that it's good to have sex, but giving a blowjob to a penis with a condom on feels like you're choking on a balloon. I really don't like it. So took the condom off and then, kind of started going down on him. And a few minutes in, and my mouth starts feeling really weird. Like everything starts feeling really weird. And I'm like, what is going on? And I'm like, no, okay, it's fine. It'll just be, a bit hangover or something, power through. And then I realized I'm feeling really not right. So I kind of sit up and I'm like, my mouth was really weird. I feel like weirdly numb, and I'm kind of starting to slur a little bit. And then he looks a bit sheepish, and I look at him and I'm like, what kind of condom was that? And he was like, it was a delay condom. And I was like, so it's got a numbing agent on the inside. He didn't think to tell me. So we're then sat there. So I get very upset with him, make him go and get me ice cream. And I'm sat there aggressively playing Mario Kart in his bedroom, attempting to eat ice cream, but my mouth is still numb. And he sat there and I'm like, you're not getting any for a couple of days. So that was I think the weirdest reason I've stopped having sex with someone in the middle, and I started to feel like I just had a bloody root canal. So that was good. So Keener zone is, if you're ever wearing a delay condom, tell the person you're having sex with, otherwise they could end up drooling all over you and not in a good way.
This reminds me of a time years ago. Mr. H bought me one of those desensitizing throat sprays because I claimed wildly proclaimed that I could never do deep throat. I still can't to this day, but the point was I was like, damn it, other people have done it on you and I want to be able to do it. So he bought me this
was at your request. I'm not
at my request.
Like a monster.
Like anything that will help me get past this epiglottis issue, gag reflex. And he bought me this desensitizing throat spray. And it was very much like, the chloroseptic stuff and for sore throats, and you squirt it at the back of your throat. And after about, I don't know, just even 1 minute, I was like I had been to the dentist. I couldn't talk. I couldn't stop laughing. Couldn't stop drooling. Anything ever.
If you've ever seen the original RoboCop film, towards the end there's a guy that gets hit by the melting acid or whatever, and he makes a sound like that. Is the perfect visual of what was happening with my wife. I mean, I still gave it a go because
I'm impressed that Mrs. H is still married to you after this.
I didn't say she looked that way. I said there was a noise that was a bit like that.
Oh, so unsexy, but we had such a laugh because I couldn't stop rolling around laughing what state I was in. And I couldn't open my mouth properly. I couldn't close it. It was like
having a conversation with Sloth from Goonies.
I wouldn't have trusted myself to put any kind of appendage in my mouth, that's for sure, because I wouldn't have been able to control any kind of jaw actions.
It would have been the
It would have been an
sloppiest.
interesting end to the story.
Oh,
Yeah.
But I'm glad it didn't end that way for everyone's sake.
yeah, it was funny though.
I would. You got to be careful with those delay condoms. 'Cause
Yeah.
sometimes I've like not realised that I've put one on because it's in the dark and you're doing sexy times. I'm like, yep, got the condom, great. And I'm like, normally I'd have come by now. Normally, what? And I'm like, what is going? I'm just doing this and it's fun and it's sexy, but I'm also like,
Never going to come.
my body is not working like it normally does. What has happened? I'm like, I think I know what has happened. And so there'll be
Yeah.
this changing of the guard of condoms. And they'll be like, what are you doing? And normally you'll be like, why don't you just finish? Like, come on, just come on the woman, for fuck's sake.
Finish.
Yeah, finish, get over here. And I'm like, change it. And you're like, why are you putting on another condom? Why are you doing this? And I'm like, because it's a delay. I did not know. It was dark. I didn't see it. I put it on. I was good. I put the condom, but yeah. So my top tip is probably like have a condom torch. Maybe
Oh,
maybe
flashlight.
that's a flash.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't confuse the two. If you're sat there trying to turn that on,
Organise them into little baggies in the same, kind of. My home is very organised. Everything has a place. I have specific places for different types of condoms, different sizes actually, because my partner is well above average, so I have special ones for him. And then, which frankly is a painful experience. I'm glad it's a long distance relationship. Otherwise, I think I'd be in real trouble by now.
well, it's important to have your latex-free ones and your big ones,
Yes.
and whatever. And every
Absolutely.
size fit seems to be a bit different as well, which is annoying. And you've got to find the ones that work for you and stuff. Yeah, it's quite. We had an incident, not an incident, but quite recently, someone chucked me the Skins regular one, and they're not such a nice one for me. I prefer the larger ones. I'm not showing off. I don't have a massive cock, but I have at least a slightly above, marginally above average size cock. And it's just the condom fits a bit better. So I put on the one they gave me because I saw the Skins packet thinking, oh, Skins, fine. And I was like, oh, this does not feel like the normal thing that I would be okay, now I need to take this off and find one of mine and ferried over there. But so top tip is get used to your own condoms, try a load of them and see what works for you. But do carry the latex free ones because that's an important thing.
I default to latex free because I've also had a situation where someone didn't realise that she had an allergy.
Oh, that's not good. Oh, you're very, very tight and getting tighter and like that.
It was a situation where I almost lost something.
Oh,
and then she was going, it's really hot. Why is everything so hot?
Yeah.
We turned the light on and I was like, oh, honey. So that was not a good moment for anyone involved.
It was
Bless her.
that moment you realised that's where you'd put the light bulb.
Oh, no.
Oh, good God.
Never a good situation.
Never a good situation. Don't put things that aren't designed. Yeah, don't. That's another piece of advice for a newbie. Never put any kind of crystal in your hoo-ha.
No.
Never put anything which isn't designed for your hoo-ha in your hoo-ha.
Yeah. And flared bases for butts.
Yes, flared bases across the board, frankly. I've seen some stuff.
Very important advice. So,
Yeah.
since we've gone through the gamut of all of our interview questions, I'm sure people will be keen to find more about you, figure out where you are, say hello, offer your wave, and all that sort of winky nonsense that you might get on the various sites. Where can people find you in the world?
So best bet is I'm on Swing Hub as Jessica Grace, all one word. And there I am not kind of the most responsive. I'm not the most social media person ever, but I'm on every couple of days. And I would love more friends because I'm kind of still building myself on that platform, having vacated another that will remain nameless.
I'm sure we can help you on that front. So, folks, drop her a message, say hello. And, yeah, I just want to say a huge, huge thank you for coming on the show. You've been absolutely delightful, and I feel like I've learned stuff.
I want to know who puts crystals in the hoo-ha. What kind of crystals
it's
do you put in your hoo-ha?
It's a goop thing. It's a goop thing.
What, the Gwyneth
it's
Paltrow
bad.
thing?
Yeah, they like splinter. They can splinter.
Is this how
don't do it.
Lois Lane gets Superman to calm the fuck down by putting
What, like a
kryptonite
crystal
in a hoo-ha? Yeah, maybe that's the thing.
Or just straight up his butt. Just straight up.
Straight in there. Straight in there.
Yep.
No problems. Well, thanks very much for joining us. Mrs. H, do you want to do your thing?
Well, thank you for hopping into our bed.
So I'll do a bonus little bit now, where because you mentioned that you had a funny story that you wanted to share with us. Can you remember said funny story, and can you please share it with us?
So I had two funny stories, one of which is the delay condom incident, and the other one when I was playing with a friend and her partner, and I went to get down on him and realised that his cock tasted like bubblegum. It's like, what is going on? This is amazing. And she was like, I'm chewing bubble mint chewing gum. She made his cock magically taste of bubblegum. And it was the best thing ever. So, yeah, flavoured condoms, eat your heart out just to get someone to chew bubblegum and go down on you beforehand.
I love that stuff. That's my all-time go-to favourite chewing gum. I love it.
Same.
I absolutely refuse any other chewing gum.
Was she chewing the gum while she was going down on him, though? Because I get it feels like there's a potential problem here somewhere that could happen to someone.
I think she may have been,
out,
but I think they've been practising for many a year, so I think they've got it down pat at this point. But it was great. It was fantastic. Highly recommend.
That's great. Right, we'll stop recording.